pep talk. See if that'll do it. Been sitting for 6 months. At least the battery has a charge. I wouldn't think it's out of gas, but it could be. I'm trying to fill up the float ball. There we go. Hey guys, and how's it going? I'd like to introduce you to my 1974 VW thing. Give you a quick little backstory on it, and we're going to get into some wrenching. I was at a car show at a museum, Volkswagen show, and this was actually from that museum had this for sale at the show, and nobody bought it by the end of it. And I contacted him on the way out, and we made a deal. I bought it. I believe it came off of an island. I think it was Martha's Vineyard it came off of, something like that. And so, couldn't get driven very much, but it sat for a long period of time. When I got into it, all the fuel lines were rotted out. It ran. All the fuel lines were rotted out, had mold inside it, on it, under it, around it. Brakes were all locked up all the way around. The wheel cylinders were all seized. So we did all that kind of stuff, got it running. A friend of mine came, cleaned up the paint best he could, and went to go for a test drive, and we found that after anything over third gear, the clutch pretty much slips pretty bad. So it got put away for the winter time. It is now springtime. Tis the season to have it out and go play with it. So I want to finish up getting whatever it needs fixed up. Plus, we also got some bling to put on it, stuff to make it look a little better. So let's go get it back to the shop, get it up on the lift. We'll start getting the engine out of it, get the clutch done, and of course whatever else we find working on it too. But we can also make it look a little bit better too. Without further ado, let's go get her in the garage and do some wrenching. Hey, got her up in here. Let's see what we got. Any other issues? I can see one right now. Looking at that muffler to the bumper. See how the muffler is on the left down more than the right side? It looks like actually might be the bumper itself. I'm looking at the bumper. It's not quite level with the back of the car. So kind of keep that in mind. I do think I thought we had an exhaust leak on it. Yeah, it's looking like right there at the heater box. There's a hole. So we may have to weld that, we may not. We'll see. I might even have another heater box for it. Again, this thing sat on an island, so the climate wasn't all that great. Looks like the rear main seal is leaking. See all the wet oil. So between the engine and the trans, when we take that clutch out, there's a seal that's in there. It's notorious for leaking, and apparently this one's doing the same thing. And let's go. Looks like we have an axle shaft that the grease is coming out of, but I don't know. I don't see anything missing. They really don't run clamps on the innards. They just kind of like a gravity. Let's see what the other side's got. Yeah, the other side's dry. We'll keep an eye on that. It looks like that clutch return spring, trying to get you up in there. So up There you go, I can see a little better. There is a spring. Bump it with the light. Like that. Right there, that's wiggling. That clutch return spring is not doing what it's supposed to be doing. It's worn or it's broken. So that's probably part of our clutch issue. The pedal feels kind of weird too. So I don't know, sometimes the pedal cluster gets a little bound up. That arm up there in the transmission can get a little bound up. You know, a combination of all of them. So probably what happened, maybe that spring failed. That's the return spring. So it was kind of like slipping the clutch all the time and it caused it to get burned up. Plus the oil leaking on it. It's not helping things neither. Everything else looks pretty decent. I think somebody put a newer tank in it, it looks like. Good. All right, well, I think I'm gonna jump ahead. I'm gonna pull the motor out. I've shown it quite a few times on videos. If there's anything interesting to show, I will show it to you. Just trying to look at that. The engine is sitting a little wacky too. I'm looking at this support right here going across. You might need a motor mount or two. We'll find out when we get it apart. If that's sitting a little weird, we could try to change them. All right, so this is pretty much the same as a Bug or an early bus as far as the engine removals. You have heater cables. There is a fuel line up on this side to get removed. These little tubes can come off. And then on the upper side, you have like 3 or 4 wires that got to get removed. There's a belly pan that comes off, and then essentially 4 bolts that go around the engine. And you set it on a floor jack on that oil strainer right there, and you walk the engine out. So I'm gonna go get a bunch of that done. We'll get the engine out, we'll see what we got. Hey, everything underneath's already been disconnected. We just knock out some of the stuff on top. This is the air cleaner. Air cleaner is a oil bath. Doesn't have a like paper filter in it. It just directs the air through oil, and then the dirt kind of sticks to the oil. And when you change the oil in one of these, you use like 3 quarts. 2.7 of it go into the crankcase, and then a little bit goes in the air cleaner. A lot of the newer ones don't have, they went to a paper air cleaner. That's a preheat hose. And these are the hoses that go to the heater box. The big fan back here, and it shoots air through the heater boxes. It picks up heat and it pushes it up into the cabin. We got a couple of cables coming across. Battery's already been disconnected. It's going to have 3 wires on this side. Oil pressure switch. Power for the coil that we just removed. And we got one more, which I believe is the other side of the coil. So that should be all 3 of them. Get them out of our way. Sometimes like a paint stick or a marker helps. I'll just put a 1 dot on there, 1 dot on the coil, and then the other wire. I'll put 2 dots and 2 dots on the wire. Not that I can't figure it out anyway. Again, it's fairly simple. I got the you can tell they did plug wires after, because they have it running up, down, and around. Go in. There you go. So that's those 3. Up top is a little fuse holder. That is the reverse light up here. Runs across, picks up power off the coil, and it runs over to the reverse lights that are off the side. 2 wires are going to go pull off of here for the alternator. Actually 3. You have power out. You have a field wire, which is this one, the smaller one. So that's the field wire. That's power out, and in the back is a ground wire. Like someone's mauled that up a little bit. If we get on it, we'll vice grips get it to turn. There it goes. So normally you would just take this harness with the 3 or 4 wires, and it runs behind the carburetor. It is that one right there. You just kind of pull it up out of the way. But somebody put a new carburetor on it, and they pinched it. They bolted the carb down right hard against it. So I got to unbolt that carb, get it to pull forward towards us a little bit, and then we should be able to get that harness out of the way. And again, the reverse light one, I just disconnect the clip on it, and I believe that one runs across and over and down to the side. And after that, this belly pan, which is this tin right here, just got a bunch of flathead screws in it. I'm going to pull that out of the way, and that'll allow the engine to come back a little bit. And the other thing is the throttle cable, which is that right there. Yeah, you had it crushed right against there, and that wasn't going to get out of there. Now we can, though. Help set that carb right back where it was. Pop the base of the air cleaner out. I may want to get that harness out of there. But you can see there's the oil that's in it, how it works. You just dump that out, wash it out, and put it in new. All right, we're to the point where there's one nut on that top right hand side that's holding it. The other 3 are out. It depends on what year of Volkswagen you're dealing with. Earlier ones, access to different parts of it were in different locations. Like on this one, it's later. What they did was they moved an oil cooler on the back of the engine. In that fan shroud, there's an oil cooler, and air would flow through it and an exhaust around each cylinder head. Well, what they found was on number 3 cylinder was overheating because that oil cooler was in the way. So they took the oil cooler and they shifted it backwards, and it's right up against the wall. You won't be able to see it right now, but it's up against that back wall. When the engine's out, I'll show you. So they moved the hardware, your access to it. So now you have to go underneath where the fuel line, that clutch is, the cable, and take a bolt out from there. 2 nuts on the bottom, and then from up top right here, there's one more that's holding it. I have a jack that I've modified, and it's kind of meant to, I just welded another plate on it, where it kind of goes around that oil strainer a little bit better. This one's got a cage underneath it, kind of like a skid plate, so that might interfere, but it generally will balance on a jack pretty good. So I'm going to get that up underneath the oil strainer, get a little bit of the weight off of it, and get that last one out, and then we got to play the wiggle game. So that nut is back around here, right about there. And to try to get a wrench on there and try to move it a little bit, there's not enough room for a ratchet. A ratcheting 17mm is your best friend. That and an S wrench. If you're working on old air-cooled Volkswagens, 2 specialty wrenches that you would want are those 2. These allow you to get to the back of the carburetor, the distributor, the fuel pump. I already cracked it loose, but you can imagine trying to reset that wrench each time. Like I said, you can get a socket on it, but then you start working it out, and the socket backs up to the motor, and now it's stuck in there. Ask me how I know. Sometimes the threads will get really cruddy. That bolt holds your starter in too. It's got like a half moon on the back of it, and the bolt will push in, and then the whole thing rotates. That sucks. I think we got it. The other good thing too is when you're putting it back together, take a wire wheel to clean all those threads up so that you can kind of spin it on with your fingers as much as you can. Lost a washer back there. All right, we should be able to kind of wiggle that free. I'm going to back you up a little bit and do the shake. Engine compartment gasket is holding on. It's stiff. There's a seal that goes around it. It's just kind of caught underneath the tins. I'm going to go underneath and work it back on both sides so I don't tear it. We got it. The thing has an extra bracket right here that's usually not here on a Beetle or a bus. That may be a problem with the belt. We'll see. Got to send the wire through for the reverse lights. And we want to grab the throttle cable. Pull the throttle cable out too. Be able to kind of tilting it back too to clear the bell housing in the back. So I got it kind of pitched backwards. I'm also off my jack a little, so it's trying to hang to this side. Come on down. Putting it back in, I may take the fan belt off. Pretty much got it. So you got no wires binding on anything. This has a early ODB2, just a plug that you would plug into from the factory. I'll tell you what's going on. So the car has to go up, then we pull that motor out. Make sure we're not going to drop it, nothing's hanging. Let's go take a peek and see what we got. I'm curious about like those transmission mounts and everything too. I don't think this has ever been out. Yeah, you can see the wetness on the bottom there. All the oil that's sitting in there and all the crap that's behind. Let's go check out. Come out the light. Throw up bearing is noisy. And this should move. Here's the when you hit the pedal up top, that's moving. That all feels free. Although there's rust on the thrust part of it. Let me get a little less light. There you go. That doesn't look very healthy, the rust that's on there. And again, that should have a spring that pushes that backwards so that this throttle bearing never touches the clutch disc. That's gonna be some cleaning up. I'd say those motor mounts, a lot of times if they get oil soaked in them too, they also kind of go to crap. Yeah. I think I have a set of them, so we're definitely going to throw them in. I'm sure all that's original. Probably never been apart. I have a complete clutch set to put in there. Let's just peek around, see if we see anything else that's out of the ordinary. So the fresh air comes in through the vents on the side. There's a hole there and a hole on the other side. The fan sucks in through the back of the engine, and all the hot air exits out the bottom. So this seal right here is kind of important. So is the back one. It allows you, when you're in traffic, you don't keep drawing the hot air back up and around again. Let's go look at the back of the engine. So you could see where the one bolt is here, and how I had to go get the nut off from the back side. Well, this one, they put a bolt in the top. Before, none of this was here. This is the oil cooler, and they moved it out. It used to be inside the fan shroud. So you had room, same as the other side. You would just reach up top and take the nut off. But now they ran a bolt in from on the other side. Doesn't look terribly wet. We got to get that apart. Again, we're going to do a seal on it anyway. See if anything stands out. I do those heater box, that exhaust leak. Let's grab a little ratchet wrench and we'll get the clutch disc off and take a peek inside. So removing the engine, that's all there is to it. Those pieces right there, hardware wise. All right, let's go grab I got the impact gun. Normally, if you're going to reuse the clutch, and definitely when you reassemble it, this is all preloaded. It's a big spring. Those are the springs. You would kind of want to remove it evenly and push it back on evenly. We're just going to buzz all the bolts off and take it off because we got a new one. Got to tell right away. So normally, make sure I got them all. Normally this clutch would pop out a decent amount. We don't have much preload at all on it. Just down to the rivets, it's wore right out. So the clutch is so far worn with the rivets on the clutch have dug into the flywheel, the pressure plate. So I'm glad I got a new one of those. Definitely got the money's worth. And it looks like it started to touch the flywheel. Nowhere near as bad as the disc though. You can see the marks where it was touching right there. So behind here is a main seal. Let's go get a big socket and take the flywheel off, and we'll see that seal that's back there and see how much oil is pissing out of it. Speaking of specialty tools, one other thing that you kind of need, a 36mm socket. It does this gland nut, it does the back of the generator, and you can barely see it. The axles on the back to get the rear brake drums off, all use that same socket. So there are shims behind here that take end play out, so you just got to watch you don't lose them. And the flywheel is dowel pinned on. Just gonna walk that out. There you go. And there's the seal. That's the seal that's pissing. You can actually see oil underneath it right here. So this seal over time just gets brittle. There's a spring behind it. It just kind of craps out over a while. And it rides on the back of the flywheel. We're just gonna take a quick peek. Make sure we don't have any bad grooves in there, which we don't. All right, I'm gonna go clean some stuff up. We're gonna go shopping and grab some stuff. We need a seal. We need, of course, the whole new clutch set up. And we got to hunt for a clutch return spring. A couple of different styles. And that's a bit of a pain in the asses. That spring. This spring right here. Again, that could have also even led to part of its demise, is that it never, it's kind of like keeping your foot on the clutch, because this lever is never to pull back all the way and get your pressure off the clutches. Essentially, that throwout bearing, when you're not pushing the clutch down, this should not spin. This should not touch the back of the clutch. And with that being out of there, that probably was the case. So let's go look at the, I did buy a clutch kit for it, I knew. Let's go make sure we have all the right components, because there's different styles. Let's go crack her open. We'll just make sure we get the right style throwout bearing. If you do, it's get the larger hole to work with that collar. And new pressure plate. The bearing for the inside that gland nut that we took off is a bearing that goes in there for the input shaft to rest against. And this is a clutch alignment tool. When you put it back together, the disc, I'll probably show you later when it's on there. The disc, when it's bolted up, can go a bunch of different play area, and I'm exaggerating, but you get the idea. So if you're trying to go put, say, the engine back in, you're trying to line this up to the transmission, but it's off kilter, you're not going to be able to get it together. So they give you a little tool, little tool when you're assembling it, goes through the center of it, lines everything up, and when you're done, you just pop it back out and everything should be in a straight line. I'm gonna go put those next to the other ones, just eyeball them and make sure they're good. Yeah, it looks fine. I think this is the original one too, because it's got a VW insignia right on it. So I'm sure it's never. I don't think this has all that many miles on it. I think, what was it, like 54,000? Let's go look. Yeah, not even 29,000 miles on it. But again, it was on an island. I think Nantucket. I think it wasn't Martha's Vineyard. I think it was Nantucket, Massachusetts. So how far can you go on an island that's probably like 30 miles long? We are in the land of broken Volkswagen stuff. Actually, it's all, a lot of it's new. So we need a room main seal. Should be down here somewhere. There should be one right there, I believe. There's a couple of them. I'll grab two to bring down with us. We need a bearing. It's a carb kit. Oh, we also need the repair kit for the heater boxes too. Don't know if that's over here. And motor mounts, right? Yeah. Wheel cylinders. Motor mounts. I try to keep that like a decent amount of stash of stuff. I have enough of them, so if not, I got, you phone a friend. All the local VW people around it, they call me up for stuff, and I call them up for stuff, and then we replace it as it's needed. And plus, like when I go to the VW shows, or you buy a car, it's got a bunch of parts in it, I kind of throw them. This is just one of the locations. All right, let's go look for those heater box repair kits. I know it, hopefully somebody didn't borrow it. It's master cylinder. And I didn't get it, one of those. I didn't get it back. Right, let me go hunt in another location. I want to say, possibly, the heater box things are here somewhere. There they are. There's one of them. You got more? Let's go bring. So what you do is you cut off what's left and you hammer these into the boxes. I got a bunch of them. All right, we'll grab two of those. And I'll just grab this one because it's got a clamp with it. Anything else? I don't think we need the seal. These are the seals that go around the engine bay. I'll keep an eye on it. Yeah, it's a whole other rack of Volkswagen stuff. More Volkswagen stuff. I don't have a problem, not at all. Yet another location. I'm still looking for the clutch return spring. These are a bunch of used stuff that I have. There's a preload tube there, and there's some smaller clutches for earlier cars. I don't see anything. Might have to phone a friend on that one. And a friend had all three. There's three different styles for them. A smaller diameter, a larger diameter, and then I think it's the orientation of how it goes. Like that one's got a double hook on it, where I think ours just have the straight on one side. This is just mineral spirits. Safety cleaning, using like your parts washer. And I got a new barrel. And so we christen it. Cleaning all this mess up. Garbage can down below. I'm just dumping it on the floor. So I'm gonna give that a bath, and I'll probably hit it with an air gun. And rinse out all that brake dust. Kind of good to take care of it while it's wet, you know, with old clutches, old brakes, or asbestos. Not sure on this, but generally you kind of want to wash it wet. And then, like I said, take an air gun and blow out the crap that's left. We still have to go take all this crap off yet, but I'd rather deal with it where it's not so crappy. Dig that mud out. You do guys find a lot of sand in this Rhode Island. The front bumper has those 2 rod holders on it, so I'm sure it was kind of like taken on the beach and used for fishing, or at least trying to look like they did. And rinse. To be able to pull that fork forward, just kind of come right off those keepers. There we go. The old. Yeah. She's growly. Definitely time. The spring, on the other hand, that's going to be a bit of a bitch. I have some colorful language. I gotta get the throttle cable, the clutch cable off. I'm going to grab it with a pair of vice grips and take the wing nut off of it, which is the adjustment, because it's got to come off through the arm anyway. Sometimes I've had to kind of like move the fork, unbolt the fork and pull it away, but we're going to try to wiggle it with how it is. Just get that right off. Same thing with this too. I'm going to hit it with a wire wheel before we put it back together, because we have to reach up under there one-handed to adjust the clutch later. This is what the adjustment is. Oh, wing nut. It's got like detents on it too, so you would think like, would it move afterwards? No, it's got like bumps that are on it. It falls into a groove on the arm. All right, let's get that out of there. And generally this requires a lot of like prying with a big screwdriver to get that out of there. Like I said, sometimes you got to unbolt it and you let it slide to the side and gives you a little bit more room to work with. Sometimes I've had luck with it, get them right out, in and out, and sometimes they have fought me and I've screwed it for about an hour. So I'm gonna go get a bigger screwdriver and start prying on it, see if it'll go. That's the easy one though. So that's the layout, how it was. You can see where it snapped off. I'm gonna go eyeball that. I think it's the larger of the ID ones. Yeah, it's that one. And again, so the new one's even harder to put on because there's more to it. But let's just go see how it wants to play. Will it just be nice to us and just go bloop? Maybe. Don't say nothing. Now, we just have to get that hook up above that. Make sure the base of it's in its right location, where that tongue is. I'm gonna go look at it with a mirror. Just gotta make sure it's all the way over. And then that little flat touches the top of the transmission. Like I said, that's why I missed it. So I gotta get where you are, so you get the idea what I need to do. So I'm gonna go try to do what I need to do without you. Sorry. I know you're gonna miss me. I'll be back. I ended up putting the bearing on while we were to pull it away. I think we got it in the right spot. Let's see if we can. I need a smaller screwdriver. A Phillips would probably be. Let's grab a Phillips. man. It feels like I missed the other side of it. Yeah. That little tab didn't lock into where it is. I gotta get a mirror and look and find out where that's supposed to go. I hit it with a hammer. Think that did anything? Kind of like drew it in further. I still think it's gonna pop off on us, but let's see what we get. Yeah, maybe we can try pushing it with something. Get something that's got like a fork on it, because I have a feeling when I pull it so far over, the bottom half kicks out. What could possibly go wrong? Get on there. The handle's in the way. Who's your daddy? Right. Good. I'm gonna hit kind of finish up, and actually we got the motor mounts to do yet too. So take care of them. I get sidetracked. Let's take the end of that cable, clean those threads up. That nut should spin on there, because again, you're going to be up there like one-handed trying to get it. Let's just make sure. Or butter. A little drop of oil probably wouldn't hurt either. Good. Let's go throw that back on the arm so that doesn't pull and come apart. And essentially, when you're adjusting the clutch, it'll make more sense when it's apart. You don't want the pressure plate and this touching each other when you're off the pedal. By about, they call it free play of the pedal, which on the pedal is probably about ½ inch. You move the pedal about a ½ inch, you're not doing anything till it touches this. Back here, it's probably a 1/16 of an inch, maybe. See how it clicks? See how it locks in? That's what keeps it from backing itself out. All right, I'm gonna go now tackle the motor mounts. Just enough room to get them out. It is hitting the tunnel though. The mounts have sagged so much the bolts didn't have the room to come out. Let's see if we can get them out now. Worst case, we could take the bracket right off, which is these two. Let me see if I can get the... We're running into clearance problems up top. Should be able to get one out. As long as you can get one out, then the other one comes right out. Because you create enough room for the two of them. It's like right there. How'd that feel on your toes? All right, I'm gonna bolt this. We'll get it to pull away. I gotta get a jack underneath the trans though, because it'll be able to come down much further. Just as well anyway, gives us a better chance to clean up all these brackets and all. I can drop down and they can fall out. So it seems you might have a slight clearance issue. Let's just try opening them up. I think it's just a rubber that kind of impeded it a little bit. That'll work. That end of the trans is all kind of buttoned up, so we can kind of move back onto the engine. I think what we're going to go do, we'll take that table goes up and down hydraulically. Let's slide that onto there. If we were just doing the clutch, I'd leave it the way it is and roll it back under, but we still have that exhaust to deal with. So let me clean up a little bit of junk and swap that over. Just kick it sideways, work on it. Like that. I'm going to take a minute and clean all this up, and then we'll pop that seal out of there and take a look at things. Clean up enough. Let's go get that old seal out. I'm just going to press against the dowel with a screwdriver. Get behind it. And it should just walk right out of there. Should. There it goes. They're not glued in or anything. They just pressure fit. Again, when it'll be 50 years old, and over time it kind of fails. Like I said, there's a spring that's in here too. Should be. Right there. Kind of holds tension on it, but again, over time the rubber just kind of goes away. So there's should be 3 shims in there. Might need a magnet. And between those 3 shims, you can adjust what's called the end play. The crankshaft, fore and aft. It can, without the flywheel on it, it's going to clunk forward and back a lot because there is a bearing, that bearing right there, that you're kind of spacing against. See if I can do it. I grab the crank on the other side. You can see how far that's moving. Again, that's without the flywheel on it. So you pinch between the flywheel back and these shims, and it takes that play away. For some reason you have to do 3. My guess is that, you know, how they rub against each other. But not quite sure on that. I don't know why you can't use 4 or whatever. But you can dial in, and it's about 7 thou, I want to say the spec is. 7 to 15 thousandths, I want to say. Possibly. All right, so we'll get a new seal. We'll tap that in there. We'll get the flywheel back on. And we'll give her a shake back and forth and see what we actually have. Straight from Germany. I guess you could put a sealer on there if you wanted to. I'm going to get a big socket. You've got to recess it a little bit. Also, if your flywheel has a groove in it, you can kind of like leave it right there, get it off the groove. I didn't see one on there. Take a quick look at it just to make sure. Yeah, sometimes you get like a ridge that'll cut into it, and if there is, you can favor that seal one way or another just to kind of get off that lip. But it looks pretty good. Again, this is low mileage, so they make tools that fit on it perfectly, but you could actually just take like again the edge of the socket and just kind of you can see it worked its way in all the way around. You just don't want it to deform this lip right here. You see how much softer and pliable this one is? I'm going to take my finger, I'm going to rub a little bit of oil on that, and we'll get the flywheel and shove it back on. Click. So now we can kind of like feel how much free play there is. And it's really not. So I'm going to put a screwdriver between the front and the rear. You put a dial indicator on it, but you can kind of tell. You'll feel it. Yeah, this one's fine. You can kind of tell it only has 27,000. A lot of pushes on the clutch. Stop and go again if you're on an island. But the flywheel, kind of looked at it. Again, it's scored from where the rivets were touching, but I don't see any like hot spots in it. So we're just going to go ahead with using what's there. Go ahead with some brake clean. The bearing in the center feels pretty good. That gland that, like I said, has a bearing right in there for the pilot shaft. That actually feels decent. I'm going to give her a little of oil. Those can be a little tricky to replace, and if you crush the cage a little bit, you end up damaging it. So if I don't see anything wrong with them, generally I kind of leave them alone. So let's get that clutch on there. There's that alignment tool. Again, it just holds that disc right in the center, so when you bolt up to it and then you go to try to put the engine and trans together, it's not askew. Is that a word? I gotta go clean the oil off of that before we put it on. Now, I'm willing to bet when we put this on, it's gonna stay proud. See the gap that's on this one? It's probably about 1/4 inch. That's how much preload this one has compared to the other one. The clutch disc actually, no, actually it was scored up. I was about to say the clutch disc is probably okay. You can get away with it, but these are, the whole setups are not very expensive. I want to say 100, 150 bucks maybe for everything. As long as you get a good one. Sacks, clutches were good. The problem with anything parts-wise now is names that you knew were good. You got to be careful because They try to sell it under the same, I'm not saying that this is bad, but yeah, they try to sell it under the same name and it's a piece of crap. A lot of automotive stuff is going to junk. Looks like the part, but it isn't. You'll see it too when I go to tighten it up. These fingers, that's the preload on it. You'll see how far they get drawn in. I am going to use an air tool to kind of run them in, but I'm going to use it to, again, a little at a time. You don't want to just tighten one up. You kind of want to run it in even, but those fingers will probably show up how they move. Let me go get that and I'll relocate you. Might be able to see it better. That's it. Boink. You see how much they drew in. That's how much preload, how much pressure is pushing on that clutch disc. And then when you hit the pedal, that throwout bearing is pushing right here. These are on a pivot. It pivots the other direction and the pressure comes off of the clutch and the flywheel, allowing the disc to spin free from the engine, or the engine to say spin free from the disc. So if you're stopped at a light, the engine's spinning around, but that clutch disc inside isn't moving at all. And next is that guy. There's two ways we can approach it. One, you can take the muffler off of the front or the back, how you want to look at it. But we have to get that piece in there and it repairs it and then it reclamps down to the muffler. Or you can take the heater box off the other side, pull the box away, hammer this into the box, and then, oh, stop it. And then put this, reinsert this back in the muffler. So I think we're probably going to go with the heater box. Let's take a look at the other side and we'll see how much damage is on the other one. If the other one is okay, maybe we'll leave it. Kind of a deciding factor with the light go. Let's dig at that a little bit. Looks pretty strong. Oh, nope. I blew through on that one. So both of them got to get done. Yeah, let's go for taking the muffler off. Sometimes, again, it can be a little bit more of a pain in the ass because the muffler has, yeah, much more connection points to it. And it's a little harder to get to the studs that are up here. And sometimes these can be temperamental. Well, I'm going to go remove that. We might even see if we have maybe a better muffler. It looks decent, just kind of rusty. I'm going to go pop that out of there. And hopefully these do not break. This is where the common spot is. And we'll repair the heater boxes. And then maybe, I might even have like a header or something. Yeah, these can be a bit of a pain. It's called a speed wrench. Oh, nice. Speed wrench is nice because you can work it back and forward. Speed wrench. Old school. Because you can work, like say if you get a little bit of, get a little bit of movement out of something, you can work it quickly back and forth instead of like trying to work with a ratchet. Like now it's binding up, so I'll go back in again and work it. A little bit of oil wouldn't hurt. That really isn't the bad side. The bad side is, actually, yeah, that is, because there's no clearance to put a nut and bolt through if you do snap it. Let's go try the other side. Where these, you can kind of see it goes clear through it. So in case you do break it, at least you can drill it out, put a nut and bolt on it. That I don't think is 10 millimeter. Nice. Also show you that S wrench I was talking about earlier. That looks like a 7/16 or something. Let's go try it again. I guess I got it. Kind of sitting on top of it though. This is the preheat. Kind of wonder what this is for. So exhaust blows through here, across the bottom of the intake manifold and back down the other side, and it keeps the bottom of the manifold. Anytime you have a carburetor that's very far away from where the intake is, so here's the carb, now the cylinder head is way over here. As it goes through here, there's a tendency for ice to build up right inside here, it gets really cold. So this tube is right below it, maintains heat going through it. Should be able to blow air through that. A lot of times they get clogged. All right, so we got these clamps to get out of the way. I'm not going to show you that, and then we'll get the S wrench in. We'll try working on getting the nuts off of the muffler. Those clamps are off. They're self-explanatory. And then there's these. This is where that fresh air from the blower housing blows through the exhaust. And it's a coupler right here that you kind of line up. Little sleeve. You loosen them up. You should be able to slide it up or down out of the way. It allows this to have movement to it. We'll do the same on the other side, and then we'll try getting these to crack loose. Remember that S wrench? There's another reason. You can kind of get in, and it gives you a distance to travel. It allows it to wrap around all the pieces, and so that's good for all four. Fortunately, the hardware is coming loose on this. A lot of times, if you go to loosen this one right here, and it doesn't want to go, forget it. Don't keep going. I take a cold chisel and I split the nut right in the center there. It opens up, and then you can take it off. Then you clean the threads up afterwards. Let's go try our luck on the upper one. I must say, I'm not going to say it, because you know how that works. All right, so I'm going to get these four off, and we'll start pulling it away. All right, see if we can get that wiggled off of there. Sometimes you have to hit it with a hammer. So. A lot of times you gotta beat these little sections up too. They get rusted right to it. Once you get a little movement out of it though, usually it's pretty good. Yeah, it's on these. There you are. The stuff we can just beat off of there. There you go, and I can kind of see it better, see what's going to happen. So, we're just going to cut that right off, right there with a whiz wheel or a Sawzall, and then this hopefully just gets hammered right in, as long as the inner part. This is the very common spot where they rot out, so that's why they even made these, because the rest of it actually stays pretty good. And to be honest with you, some of the newer, again, same conversation we just had, you know, the newer stuff is worse than the old stuff, much more junk. Original ones, see those fins down in there? That's what transfers the heat to the inner side. You look at the newer ones, there's like half the amount of fins, amount of surface area. Not that I'm all that concerned about heat in this car, but you know. It's off. I'm going to clean those edges up a little bit. Hopefully that's going to hammer into there. This one may have already been done. I see the sleeve in there. It's already been done and rotted out. Let's see if we can get like a slide hammer. Let's see if we can get this old piece out of here. And we'll just put new ones in again. Yeah. Like, that's kind of the same size. Can we drive it? No, I don't want to drive it in. beat on it with a screwdriver just a little bit, see if it'll go. We allowed it to like shrink down a little. Yeah, we got it. I'm gonna grab a hook and pull out on it. There we go. Almost like it wants to go back in there. I'm gonna clean the edge up just a hair on the bottom. I'm going too far because you want to make sure you're in the window of where the clamp will line up. Rather Taiwan than the other place. Remember when Japan was the crap? You see made in Japan, you're like, oh, good. Something's made in Japan. Do the same thing to the other side. Yep, they did both sides. See if you can get, see if that'll come out without having to slice it. Hard to get a bite on it. Nah, gonna have to slice it. Let's go look at this muffler. See if you see any crap coming out of it. So it's not rusty internally, which is good. And the external part looks fairly decent too. I don't see any blowouts happening anywhere. Let's go upstairs and just for shits and giggles, see if I have anything. If not, we're gonna go put that back on. Back in the horde all over again. So what do we got? Look at this thing, like a Monza muffler. I kind of want to keep it quiet. Again, that's a Beetle muffler that's on there. It's not even a thing set up. And nothing that's going to be... There's a couple of newer ones, but I think... Like that's bus. That's a 40 horse. 40 horse, the width of the nozzles are close together. On the other, there's some old 36 horse stuff. There's some new heater boxes. Are they good ones? Maybe I can show you what I was talking about. So if you look down inside there, see how many fins there are? That's what you get. That's the cheaper, crappier stuff. So there's a whole header setup. That would be a waste on this though. Now I should have a whole muffler kit. That's probably one right there. And there's different qualities of that. This one. I think this is a horn. That's a horn. So we're going with that. Even like this stuff, it's gotten crappier over time. These, they need a good curve of the shell to draw the pieces together. And the newer and newer that they get, the more and more they're just kind of flat going across here. These are the tailpipe and the muffler are the same size. Let's see what these look like. Probably got these at a swap meet. They look pretty good. Throw that anywhere. Alright, what I was just talking about. These just came out of the box. They're new. And got a light's getting you. There's supposed to be a gasket, a crushable gasket that's in it. and then a ring. And the ring is the other flange, from the muffler side that pushes up against it. This one doesn't have one. This one has one. Like if you would just slid them on there and not paying attention, you would have put the whole muffler on, and you got to take the whole thing apart again just to go get that metal ring in there. So I'm going to grab another one. And that's better. Got it all buttoned up. Use pretty much all the same hardware all over again. A couple of new gaskets. And you can see how the fitment is afterwards. And the little waffle, little donut that's in there gets crushed with the metal ring on this side and then the existing ring on the muffler, and just clamps them together and seals it up. Same as those. Alright, do we have anything else that we need to do on the engine while the engine's out? Maybe I'll just take a quick peek with a mirror underneath, just make sure there's no bird, squirrel's nests, mice, anything like that in there. May take a little bit of time, and if there is, might be able to get it with an air gun. See a little piece of something right there, piece of a leaf. I could pick that out because that'll cause it to overheat. Let's look in here too, see if we see anything. Looks pretty good. All the thermostat stuff looks like it's still hooked up. I believe this thermostat is still down below. It'll look back here as a big hole, right? Hey, look at the rest of the muffler. They're blowing out here a little bit, but again, this is the outer skin. This is where just that cold air is blowing through. And there's the valve on the inside of it. I'll show you. And then when you turn the heat on, you just open that little doorway, and it allows the heat to flow up into the cab, and then the cab has adjustment on it where it comes out with her. Actually on this I'm not sure, but it should be defrost in feet essentially. Well, before we put the engine back in, it does have one more thing I want to take care of. Not so bad right now because the engine is out of it, but it has a bit of the Carolina squat, which is the ass, dragon ass. And I like the 70s where everything was jacked up in the rear end. And following with the theme of the 70s, I guess, we're going to go with air shocks, if they fit. Volkswagens, you can index the torsion bars and kind of change the heights of them. I kind of want to make it adjustable with the air shocks depending what I am doing with it. Whereas if you alter those, you have to take the whole thing all apart again. It's not like an easy, quick thing to change the height. So air shocks are fast. Let's away in there. I'm going to eyeball them first, get it back up, and you're going to air a light under it, and we'll make sure that we are apples to apples. So does that look like a man? This is probably expanded a little bit, but that's kind of what we want. Well, the bowl holes are correct going through. I should be able to shrink that down. There you go. Yeah. I just worry going the other direction that it doesn't, you got topping out and bottoming out. Just want to make sure I still have some more room, and this has a lot of travel. We're fine. Let's go hit that with an impact gun. Buzz out some bolts and see if it'll fit up inside the hole. I think the chances are the bolt's going to come out of the shock. Sometimes it seize up in the bushing. Good. Awesome. This thing is just begging to be worked on. Everything wants to come apart. I know, I said it. I screwed up with that washer go. Let's go see. That looks fine. That looks like a tad wider. That was the lower with the spacer. I'm not sure. If it fits, it fits though. Let's go find out. So I'm pretty sure it probably went to the local gas station, had shocks put on it, whatever what did they say, rider or something like that. And I think this was the normal width of it, but they crushed down on it. I could actually see that it concaved on both sides. They crushed down on it. So I'm going to try pulling this back out. I don't know, maybe I'll stick like a bar in it and whack it with a hammer each direction and see if I can get this to fit. If not, I don't mind grinding a little bit off the edges, a little off the top. It's like right there. A little bit more. We're in and through. Woo-hoo. It took a few minutes and routed some hose. I ended up putting the valve on the inside engine compartment, kind of keep it out of getting bumped. A lot of times you see put them on the bumpers and get smashed. And that line comes from there through here up to a T. They came with these little clips that you drill in and it mounts the lines. So this one goes off to that side and this one's going down to here. I don't think it benefits trying to, there's nothing near that at all. I think just letting it maybe have a little room, maybe one clip right here, possibly. Yeah, maybe I will. That should be about it. Everything else looks like it's really out of harm's way. Real far away from the exhaust and all. Let's put like 20 pounds in it. I'm gonna go call it a night, and then tomorrow, if you still got air in it, I know we're good. Plus, you could soap up the connections a little bit. They're just like hand tight. There's really not much to them. There's that O-ring and then a fitting with a taper on it. That just kind of squeezes it together. Let me go drill one more right there. Well, it's already pretty sprung in the back. I let it down, but again, the suspension's kind of not able to slide. You got to roll it a little bit, and plus the engine's not in it. Well, let's go put some PSI in there. It made noise. Let's that is 20 PSI. A little more. That's 60 pounds. Let's let it set overnight with 60 pounds in it. Problem with these, it's not like a tire. Every time you go to check it, you lose like 5 PSI because it's a very short system. Let's set overnight and we'll see what we get. Well, it's the next morning. The ass end still appears to be up in the air. Let's go throw a gauge on it, see what it looks like. And let's see what we said. 60 pounds, which is right there. It is got a slow leak because it is now at 35. But every time you check it. So I'm gonna go soap that up, see if I can go tighten up a couple of fittings. My guess is where it is. All right, so we're gonna move things along and I'm gonna get the engine thrown back in there. It's pretty much the reversal of everything we did to take it out, which isn't all that much. Only thing is you put the car in gear and you put the emergency brake on to line the spline up as you're trying to get onto the transmission. You rock the belt back and forth and it turns so the splines can line up so the engine can slide forward. I'll get that knocked out. Well, I soaped them up. I don't see anything coming out of any of the fittings. It could have been actually the Schrader valve, the tire valve, not sealing. I don't see anything even coming out of that at the moment. Let's let that be. Also could be inside the shocks too, unfortunately. I'm gonna give them each they're only hand tight anyhow. I'm gonna give them each a little bit of an extra twist. Like I said, I'll throw the motor back in and let's get this project moving on. So instead of putting on a floor jack and working the the engine up underneath and dropping the car on it, so why don't we just leave it on this, try to lift it up underneath. And of course, that failed. So it was still about 2/3 of the way up. I was able to get the engine up underneath it, but I had to work with the lift, settling it down. But it's nice, it's a little bit higher to work with. I do believe we are all butted up together. The car may be again out of fuel. I don't know because we tipped it, so it may or may not fire up easy. Let's give her a couple of them, give her a crank, and see what happens. So I went to go and crank it and I got nothing. There's that top bolt right up in there. And I reached my hand up here and pushed that bolt in forward, got it started. And must have touched that wire. Well, if it was that brittle, it was on its way out anyway, so I got to go take a minute and redo the ends on here. That's not good. Well, it's kind of better that it happened now anyway. Took all apart, cleaned off, wire wheeled all the contacts, put a new end on it. Checked the other ones, make sure they're okay. And would have left us stranded very shortly, because you got to figure this engine moves around on the motor mount, so that wire would have eventually broken off. Kind of gave a little bit of stress test to the other ones too. Yeah, that should help it. Everybody does the battery terminals. Everybody thinks about the other end having corrosion on it. Let's try it again. Take two. Well, that sounds better. Let that warm up a little bit. Okay, no more exhaust. When you rev it like that, you ended up taking it off the choke. So you gotta let it kind of warm up a little. You have an air fuel mix to adjust it. You can't do that till it warms up. Yeah. Nice. Go push the clutch in. Make some odd, ungodly noises. A little bit. Let's go up. It's a one wheel peel. Either one wheel or the other. It's going to spin. Open differential. Doesn't help having it in gear. Let it warm up a little bit more. On the side, you have idle speed and the air fuel mixture are down below over here. I can hear right now it's kind of off. Let's see if the choke is open all the way. Yeah, I can even hear that they got it. Kind of the mix is off. That's better. Choke's off now. That sounds right too. Good. So, you think we went through all that work to throw air shocks on there for nothing? Come on now. We're gonna show you something else. So I was searching for a set of wheels, and a friend of mine had a set of 4, 2 of them were shot, and another friend had a set of 4, 2 of them were shot. So I took them all, sandblasted them down, cleaned them all up, put some new tires on them. How about those? Let's go throw those on there. I also got nice chrome center caps for them too. Make them all pretty. Yeah, I spent some money, right? Huh? Real ketchup Betty? Yeah, we're styling. I don't think I have fancy lug nuts for it though. A decent amount of difference, probably 2 inches overall, which raises it an inch, you know, in the center of the wheel. Definitely beefier though. Well, one last thing I'm going to take care of before we take it down and out of the garage. It's 50 years old and it's starting to suffer from a cataract. I'm going to go change that lens out for that one so it kind of matches the other one over there. And all this time I thought they were just a set of Super Beetle lenses. She does not fit. Once you cut that base out, it's got a notch on that one, and that one doesn't have it. Alright, for another day. We'll deal with that later. Let's go put the original one back on. Let's see if we can turn some of that frown upside down, a little bit of tilt that's on that bumper. Or jack it up on the low side. And it's pretty stout. There it goes. A little too much. I don't want to wreck the paint. Gotta wonder if the other side should drop down a little. Maybe it's hit upward. On a regular VW thing, the exhaust actually comes out of here. Again, that's a Beetle muffler that's on there. It's better. How about jacking it up and jumping on the other side? Wait for that jack to shoot out. I can see it on the side. You can see this guy going uphill. It's better. Still down about 3/4 of an inch, a half inch on that side. And I clean out the car, get ready to go for a ride. I did think of everything. I just forgot. I'll throw them on. Let's go running through the gears, a little bit of windy roads. Front end's out of whack. Just looking at the steering wheel, you can see that's the angle it stays on. It's got a little bit of growl to the left. I had the front wheels off. I did not see an issue with wheel bearings. I wonder if the alignment is out of so much that like the tires are scrubbing a little bit. It doesn't really pull. You know, it seems like it goes straight. Handles everything okay. That's leaning into it pretty good, so. Clutch, the throw-up bearing was making noise at first. When I first fired it up, I go, oh, no, I gotta pull it back out. But it went quiet, so whatever was its issue, it seemed to have cured itself. Kind of keep an eye on it. Got a bunch of other stuff still needs to be done. Go to fourth. There's a gas neck underneath that's cracked, it's leaking. Drive it around, you can start smelling fuel. I already picked that up. Again, the front end we got to go deal with. I think the front brakes are doing most of the work. The back brakes, although everything is new, somebody put a new brake line in, and so there's a hard line that goes from the front all the way to the back. And if you use the wrong line, if you don't use like the German style line, the fitting will thread in, but it keeps on threading it. It threads in so far that it blocks the tee off. So it runs all the way in, doesn't leak, but it doesn't send fluid to either left or right rear wheel. So I have a feeling that's probably the issue. I'm looking down at the floor. I can see where they, again, a new line is on it. Plus, like I said, this thing sat for a while. It looks like somebody went through and was told to like clean it up, get it running, put a new carburetor on it. You know, gas tank was new, some fuel lines. Probably found that the clutch was no good, and at that point they were just like, you know what, I'm just gonna donate it, take the money for it, and call it what it is. So that's where I came along. I bought it right. I think I paid $8 grand for it. I want to say these things, pun intended, are actually demanding a decent amount of money, and this one does still need some more love. It's got the I got a carpet kit to put in it yet. There's some rust work to do on the passenger's floor where it meets the body on that end. It's a little punky. There's some, you might have saw it hanging. There's a carbon canister. Goes from the gas tank to the back. That has like a brake line that's all rotted out. It goes from the gas tank to a charcoal canister, and then again back to the front. I think it actually sucks it in the intake too. So that's all punky. So I'll address all that at one time, and just I get a little bit more love all the way around. I got a fifth rim of the wagon wheels. I'm gonna put that on the For a spare, I got to get a spare that's small enough to slide down in where it goes. It's kind of the same as the Beetle. The engine seems like it's fine. Transmission doesn't grind shifting through gears. Holds reverse, doesn't pop out of any gear. But if you hit the brakes, you can kind of tell something's not right. If I use it with like the emergency brake, I can definitely feel the the improvement on it. So again, I still need to look into that. Horn doesn't work. Radio doesn't work, but again, all the directionals and everything do. Headlights work. Give it the beans. Performance, 50 horsepower at its finest. Speedo's got a little bit of a bounce to it. That's usually the cable. There's a little loop shot down the cable. Wipers work. When Brian and I played with it the first time, we took the roof off, folded the windshield down, folded it up. This thing all comes apart. The windshield folds down like a Jeep. The doors come off of it. I might want to try to find a soft top for it. A little bit more useful. You can kind of, you have it with you. Where this, you can take the top off, but if you're someplace where it starts to rain or gets cooler, that's it. You got to run with your brung. So we'll see. And drive it around a little bit more. Yeah, it just sounds nice. Got rid of that exhaust leak, which is nice. Sometimes that'll get into the heat too, because it leaks right where that sheet metal is, and sometimes that'll come up through the heat if it has an exhaust leak there. Seems like all the numbers are matching. The engine matches, the transmission that matches, the build date. It takes right's awesome. Left, it growls a little. So, and I have a feeling it might have something like we're going straight. There's the rack of the steering wheel. These steering wheels too, you can unbolt them and just index it correctly. But I'll look at like the tie rods and stuff and see if one's got a lot of thread on it, one's got a little bit of thread on it. That might be the case. What's going on with it? I guess go bring her back to the sand pit and do a walk around. Maybe we could have a friend of mine film a drive-by and see what it looks like going down the road. Digging the wheels. I thought the gear ratio was going to kind of screw it up, being a taller tire. Doesn't seem like it affects it. It's just as slow as it was before. Was that the horn?
It's me.
Do that again.
Got no horn.
Well, I ran it, I don't know, about 20 miles. It seems pretty good. Half of that was like, I wouldn't call it a highway, but 55, 60 mile an hour. You can let go of the wheel, it stays straight, doesn't shimmy, doesn't do anything like that. I got on the brakes hard a couple of times and it seems like they're getting better. It's new all the way around, so maybe they just kind of need to seat themselves. Not sure. Again, I got that metal work to do on the passenger's floor, that line going across. There's a gas line, the filler neck. If you fill it up and you make a turn, it seeps out of the filler neck. It's like a flex pipe. I got new ones for that to go put in. Again, just needs a little bit of love all the way around. A couple of more things. My guess is it probably sat for 15 or 20 years. They brought it to somebody to go fix it up and got it running, and then found that it needed a clutch, and they just donated it and said, I'll take the money right off. And then I came along. Wheels look awesome, don't they? It's the chrome lug nuts, I know. It's essentially like a fiberglass dune buggy. Handles a little bit better because it's got a little bit more weight over the front end of it. And they made them in I think it's Mexico. For U.S. import, it was 73 and 74. This is a 74. can tell by the vents, those big boxes on the back. A 73 doesn't have that, and a 73 I think has a gas heater, and this went back to heater boxes like what a Beetle or a bus would have. So, got to paint the roof too. A couple of stuff. We got a, you know, the VW car show is coming up. I'll keep my list. I don't think it's very big, but you know, there's a couple of things. I wouldn't mind trying to get the correct muffler for it. That's for another day. At least it's up and running and it's able to be driven, which it wasn't able. You were able to do that before, but you can go over second gear, third gear, forget it. It would just start slipping. So, all right, guys. With that, I'm going to sign off. And I'll thank y'all for hanging out with me. A little bit of wrenching, a little playing around, and see what else is on the menu coming up. I'm trying to get some of the ones that are close to the finish line done, and yeah, this one was almost there. So it's still almost almost there, but at least it's drivable now. All right, guys, I'm gonna mumble, so I'll stop at this point. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see you later.